Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see
Come
you.
in, my man. Back to the library. Sit down in there. You guys want anything? Coffee, water, anything? You all set?
I'm all set. Thanks.
Okay.
Whiskey might be appropriate. A bullet.
No.
So how many more days?
How many more days?
Nick. Almost done?
Almost done.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. A lot of ways. All right. I know you got a lot of questions. I printed out all the paperwork so we can go through that. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. Once you, I mean,
Can you sum up what's going on for me?
Sure. Sure. The medical board had an investigation some time ago, and that resulted in a notice of opportunity, which is in essence an indictment for violations of Ohio law regarding your medical license. The medical board is the police agency for doctors. A lot of people think the medical board is like our friends. No, they're not our friends. They are the police protecting the public from us. So that's their job. They've started a prosecution against your license. There's no jail here. I mean, it's not a criminal prosecution in the sense that there's any possibility of jail. But there is an action against your medical license to take it away or restrict it in some fashion, like a suspension. That's how they discipline us. I'm a physician too, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's the notice of opportunity, and that came out on October 9th.
What was the reason?
The reasons are you admitted that you created documents, medical records, and or directed the creation of documents, means you had somebody do it for you, including progress notes or consent forms, months or years after the actual date upon which the services were rendered. So you made medical records way after the date that they actually happened. And then number two, you stated that you created these records in order to make patient charts more complete related to seeking accreditation for the Accreditation Association of Ambulatory Healthcare. Those are the two allegations. There was one more that related to walking out of a conference, but that didn't happen, so they've dropped that one. Okay? So it's basically two allegations. You created false records, and you did it in order to get accreditation with some agency. That's the allegations. Okay?
Accreditation. Like,
That was for
Facility.
the Ambulatory Surgical Center.
oh.
Okay? To get approval. Okay? All right. The Ohio law about licenses has 43 reasons for docs getting in trouble. And the two that apply here, and they sent you this when they sent you the original notice, is number one, obtaining or attempting to obtain money or anything of value by fraudulent misrepresentations, creating phony medical records, phony in the sense of dating them at a wrong time or years or months after they were actually created, in order to get accreditation. That's attempting to obtain anything of value by fraudulent misrepresentations.
Is this like about a different case or something? I thought this was about Voss getting surgery.
It's chartered. That's
Yeah.
It's okay,
Yeah.
but she wasn't. But there was no money exchanged.
Seeking accreditation is anything of value.
Okay, so did Nico need his accreditation in order to work at that facility? Is that why it worked at?
Well, why were you seeking accreditation?
Why is
Improved
any-
reimbursement,
why is any-
improved stature.
But there was no
improved
reimbursement.
stature, I guess.
Improved
in the community. It
Anything of
validates
value.
your facility.
Correct. Anything of value.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been going through the effort if it didn't have a value to you.
But it didn't have a value,
It
except
doesn't. I don't operate there.
he was protecting.
I mean, he's saying in the eyes of the public,
Oh,
it has value, so
It
of
has
some
value.
sort.
It's
Even though it's not like
it's like a stamp of approval somehow.
right.
Okay, it's like the
Oh, a
good
stamp of-
housekeeping
okay.
seal of approval. You
because
put-
Nico wasn't supposed to work on his wife.
not supposed to work on your wife. You're never supposed to do that.
So that's what it is.
But they didn't charge with that. They didn't charge. The allegation is not that you violated good medical practice by operating on your wife. Now, they could have charged that. That's certainly another one of the things in here.
But they didn't because they believe it was him who did it, even though it wasn't. But he falsified the records so that
Correct.
Nick wouldn't get in trouble for that.
Correct. And as I've told you umpteen times, you've heard my lectures, you can do almost anything except lie. Now, if you'd operated on your wife, okay, they'd slap your wrist and give you a reprimand. Okay, that's what they did with two of my OBGYNs last year. They operated on each other's spouse. Okay, so they slap your wrist, give you a reprimand. You're still on probation, which causes probationary problems. But they had no interest in suspending or revoking. But the fact here is that we're dealing with allegations of dishonesty.
All right. So
And a
when
cover-up is always worse than a crime.
Mhm.
Lying is the worst thing you can do. And making false or fraudulent statements, including medical records that aren't true, that's a false statement. For the purposes of getting anything of value, even if it's just a little gold seal on your forehead,
Yeah.
that violates the law.
So is there now like any way to I mean, because he didn't operate on her and he was, he falsified the records to protect Nico, which was, stupid.
Okay, he falsified the records.
So but he was, I was there that day.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of pressure on him to
Mhm.
change these records, and so why did so Nico just didn't want to get into any trouble, so he was having Matt cover for him, right?
Okay.
But why can't we go back to the board and explain the truth and say he was
We can. We have a hearing.
uh-huh
That's why they call this a notice of opportunity. It's
okay
a notice to you of your opportunity to have a hearing if you want one. To go forward and to explain to the board all of the circumstances, everything that exonerates or explains, everything that mitigates, all of your motivations and everything else like that.
okay
That's what a hearing is for.
mm-hmm.
We're scheduled for a 3-day hearing. A hearing is a trial. It's
Mhm.
conducted just like a trial. Court reporters, arguing, lawyers, everything. Okay,
Mhm.
it's a trial.
why I mean there was you got the recording that Matt had
Mhm.
where Nico admits that it was he who was working on his wife and Matt was covering for him with the records. So why was that ever presented to the board?
Not to the full board. I'll explain that. It's been presented to the secretary and the supervising member, the two people that make the decisions about whether to initiate a prosecution, whether to settle a prosecution, or at least recommend to the full board that the prosecution be settled. There are 12 people on the board. Those two people run the discipline. Those two people don't vote when the actual question comes in front of the full board. The reason they don't vote, they're ineligible to vote, is that they have information from looking at the file, listening to the recording, that the full board doesn't have. The full board only gets, if there is a hearing, the transcript of the hearing and the report of the hearing. Because at the hearing there may be evidence that is offered that is inadmissible, and we object to it, and it doesn't get into the hearing. Therefore, the rest of the board members don't hear. They're not polluted by inadmissible evidence. Okay, you with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the secretary and the supervising member don't vote. They abstain. So the full board doesn't know anything about this case yet. They know nothing. The other members of the board know nothing about this case, and they won't know anything until a consent agreement is presented and they are asked to either approve it or reject it, and they can do either, or until a hearing is held, at which point they are then given the transcript of the hearing, which will be 300, 400, 500, 600 pages long, all of the exhibits, all of the medical records, and the report of the hearing officer with a recommendation of whatever discipline. Okay? So right now the board knows nothing about this case other than the secretary and the supervising member.
Does Nico have the same punishment?
Yes.
If Nico were to step forward and exonerate him and say, I pressured him to change the records and I was the one to work on my wife, I was afraid I was going to get in trouble for working on my wife, would that exonerate him?
No. What was the question I asked you in the email today? When you wrote the records, did you know they were not true? The answer is yes. There's nothing I can do to change that.
Even if it was a pressured situation and there
Even
was
if you had a gun to your head, which he certainly didn't.
so to speak.
Well, the actual notes that were written were true. It's
Okay.
just the part with the surgery, which they're not really even. I don't think it's coming into question.
At a hearing it is.
And it might. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
it
yeah,
wouldn't.
yeah,
So
yeah.
in that sense, the events were true. I signed off on them.
Right.
But the part with the surgery is not true, and I signed off on that too. And that's so. To answer your question, yes.
Well, see, here's the thing. I mean, I would love to go forward with the hearing. I mean, lawyers love hearings. That's what we do. It's like you were a surgeon and I was a surgeon, and we love to operate. Okay, and a lawyer loves to have trials and hearings. That's what we do. It's just it creates such a downside for you. That's my concern.
How is it more of a downside than what's happening?
Well, first of all, you get a 500 or 600 page transcript where the prosecution spells out the gory details of what was done wrong. That transcript is a public record. Every hospital, every malpractice carrier, every credentialing agency can get that transcript and read all the dirty allegations, claims, and everything else like that. Number two, I already know what the outcome's going to be. This is what I do for a living. I've been doing it for 45 years. I know you're going to be found guilty because the records weren't true. That's a slam dunk. You're guilty. And the only question is, what is the level of punishment? Okay. Right now, they appear to be offering a 60-day definite suspension. The guidelines, which I sent you this morning, the minimum is 1 year suspension, indefinite. And the maximum is revocation. So when they see people fooling around with medical records and basically lying to the government, they punish. It's like lying on your tax returns. You can file your tax return and say, I made $1 million, but I don't have enough money to pay the taxes, and they'll give you a payment plan. If you file your taxes and say, I made $3 and you really made $1 million, you go to prison. They punish for the lie. So that's the fear. Now, we can have our hearing. All we've done is get a continuance right now. I mean, we were scheduled to be doing it now, but, we'll get it rescheduled. Nick may settle out. He may take the option of settling out. I don't represent him, and I don't know what he's going to do.
Do you know his attorney?
Yeah, I know his attorney very well. Unfortunately, one thing that we have done is to keep, up until now, everybody from doing this. Okay?
What's that?
That means blaming the other guy. You blame Nick, Nick blames you. You blame Nick, Nick blames you. Let's throw some more gasoline on the fire.
But what does Nick have to blame him for?
I don't know. He went along with it. I told him what I wanted him to do to help me, and he said, fine, I'll do it. I'll do anything for you.
Okay.
Okay, that makes it worse. That makes it forebrain consciousness intent to deceive.
Well, I was there. So I know it wasn't,
Well, you'll get to testify too. You'll get to testify too.
What does his attorney say? Like, because I mean, he's going down for protecting him.
No,
No,
he's going down for lying.
but he was lying to protect Nico. He didn't even have,
I
I had
understand
no
that.
motivation.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Your motivation
He was
between you and
your
me,
partner. He
yeah,
was his,
between you and me, your motivation, in my opinion, was respectable. Okay, you're trying to help
Yeah,
a
it
partner
doesn't matter.
and everything else like that. Okay,
It doesn't fucking matter.
but it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
The government, they don't care. They don't care what the reason is.
They really don't care. This board's not going to give a crap what your motive was. They're going to say you lied.
So-
How do we
They
ever
should have more
trust you?
respond. That's what it comes down to. They
I mean,
should
how do I-
have
how do
Son
we-
calls and say, no, walk
How
out
do
the
we
door.
ever trust you again? Okay, if you're going to lie for the purposes of getting accreditation, how do we know that you're not lying every time you do an op note? How do we know that you're not jacking around the patients to do more surgery than is really necessary because you get a bigger surgical fee?
can't they look at that though? Can't they see that this was an isolated
You
event
really
under
want
different
them to look
circumstances?
deeper?
Sure, why not? If he has nothing to hide, he's an excellent doctor. He's never
There's
done it.
Never,
never
been a
harmed
doctor
anyone.
whose stuff I couldn't find holes in.
Well,
You've heard my lectures. You know, it's just true.
Going back to the whole deception part.
We don't
I mean,
want to open up a can of worms any broader than we're already dealing
I
with.
think we do though. I think it's important. He's innocent. I mean,
No, he's
he,
not
I'm
innocent.
innocent.
he
I did it,
lied.
Lauren.
He
The
lied.
motivation's not.
But he didn't harm anybody. He was just protecting his partner. He was under a lot of pressure to do it, and so he did
Okay.
it. And yes, maybe he'll go to the grave
I know.
with, knowing that he was a good friend, a very good friend. But should he be, should this be marring his reputation and his record as a physician because he was a good friend?
Yes.
That's
Not
what
that
I
I
was
like
gonna
it. Don't misunderstand me. I've defended doctors for 45 years. I don't like this situation. But I'm telling you what it is. He's violated the law. The question really is, what is the degree of punishment that he's going to receive? This is what every lawyer goes through in a plea bargain. I've got a client who broke the law. Now, he had reasons, he had excuses, he had explanations, he had justifications, he had reasons that sound okay, doing it to help a friend. Okay?
Okay.
But he still robbed the bank.
But you're his representation. You're his attorney. You're supposed to
Give
convey
him,
what you've just said. And
I'm supposed to give him the best advice I can give him. We're not in a hearing yet. When we get to a hearing, it becomes a different role for me. It's an advocacy role to dispute everything they're trying to say, to mitigate everything they allege, to show that he did it for good reasons. All of that. You'll say it. You'll say it. Hopefully I can even get Nick to say it. Okay? I'm just telling you. I think whatever comes out after a hearing will be worse than a 60-day suspension for two reasons. Number one, the punishment will be much more than 60 days. Number two, we will have a gigantic paper trail that is available to the public that we will have to deal with for all of your subsequent credentialing purposes.
isn't there a paper trail anyhow?
No. The only paper trail right now is the notice of opportunity. That's the only public record. If we do the consent agreement, that will be the only other public record.
But those are easily accessible, more easily accessible to someone who's looking for a physician.
They
I'm not even worried about that. I mean, that's been on my record for 3 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been anybody for 3 years, and my practice is.
and that doesn't
thriving.
mean anything.
But
okay.
Two things.
Mhm.
One is there are many a time where months, if not weeks to months, maybe even longer, that the hospital calls says, "Hey, you didn't dictate this op note from back in 3 months ago.
Right.
And we're going through accreditation. Jayco's coming through
We
your medical
need
records.
you to
today.
update these
How-
charts.
How
Finish
does
them.
that differ in the sense that that's created
Mhm.
after the fact?
Mhm.
And then I sign it after the fact.
Mhm.
How's that differ?
You created a record here that wasn't true.
Well, no, it was true. Those things did happen. The one that they're alleging is the ones that were misdated. They don't even know about the op note from Nick's wife. They don't know about that at all. I mean, it's not. But obviously, they can ask about it,
Yeah.
and I would be truthful.
And they will. And they will.
They don't know about the op note from.
Nick's wife. That's not what this is. The evidence they have against me is the dates on some of the other Botox notes. Some bullshit.
Oh.
Yeah.
But remember, they're tying this with the B8 allegation, and that was the motive here was to obtain accreditation. Now, when you're signing chart notes for a hospital,
Yeah.
there's no motive there for you.
I don't know how
There's
it's
no
different.
value there to you other than keeping your credentials, but you know, that doesn't count. Keeping your hospital membership. But here, what's devastating is the allegation that you did it in order to obtain accreditation. That's anything of value.
So what they have is about Botox.
Just about the whole chart. There are notes in the chart that were made after the fact.
What chart?
Voss's chart.
So it's all just Voss's chart.
For me, yeah. That's
For
the
you, yeah,
problem.
but it's more for Nick, and when we get to a hearing, it'll be a lot more.
Because he was doing Botox on her and saying you did.
Well, I did some too. I mean, I did it,
Mm-hmm.
and those were documented. I just documented after the fact. So. But he went to great lengths to, hide the fact that he did Voss's surgery. He actually had, anesthesiologist sign a different note because he put Nick's name on the.
Wow.
He's in much deeper shit than you are.
But I thought he was in the same.
Well, if this went forward.
Well,
it'd be-
factually, he's in deeper shit. If we start digging into this, there's going to be more and more bad stuff that comes out. That's, again, what a hearing does. There's our paper trail. There's that public record, 3 or 4 or 5, 600 pages of court reporter transcript saying, yeah, I did that too. Yeah, that's what happened. I want to keep that away from the public record.
So,
What, Nick's stuff?
all of it.
Everybody's stuff. Nick's stuff, Matt's stuff, your stuff.
I don't understand why are you representing Nick too?
No, of course not. But the more that Nick brings out into the public, either to exonerate himself or explain it, it's just that much more stuff that we would have to deal with.
I guess the ultimate question in my mind is signing this document, admitting to whatever these sections of this code are, what does that effectively going to result in with regards to board status, with regards to hospital privileges? The insurance company I don't really care that much about. I don't see much insurance anyway, so most of my stuff's elective cosmetic stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, I mean, am I going to lose my privileges? Am I going to lose my board status?
No, I don't believe so. Okay? And I say that just based on experience.
Well, that's
Okay.
what I'm relying on.
I just say no for several reasons. Number one, the hospital likes you, okay?
Yeah.
They're not going to throw you out with the bathwater.
Right.
There's no motive for them to do that. I imagine that when you go through your next re-credentialing cycle,
Yeah.
they'll ask you about this.
Absolutely.
And I will write up for you an explanation.
Okay.
And remember, they won't have a hearing.
Right.
They won't know the facts.
Right.
And we will tell them the true facts in a way that's least damaging to you. Okay?
Okay.
We'll work on that language and we'll come up with something that just says, yes, I had to date some records as part of the accreditation survey. We don't have to go into why you did it or who pushed you to do it, okay? But that's all stuff that we can work on because there'll be no one to contradict us.
What do you mean?
There'll be no public record of a transcript where the medical board lawyer is accusing you of this, that, and the other thing.
But won't they see like these admissions of guilt and be like,
What
doesn't matter what the reason is?
What
Yeah.
You admitted to this.
what have we admitted to?
That's what I'm asking.
All right, let's
Yeah.
look specifically at what we would be admitting to. B8, the obtaining of or attempting to obtain money or anything of value by fraudulent misrepresentations in the course of practice. I post-dated some of my medical records in order to be accredited. It was silly. I regret doing it.
But none of
I'll
them.
never do it again.
There was no money exchanged if it was Voss.
That's not the
Doesn't
value.
take money.
It's not the value. It's
Anything
intangible.
of value.
It's intangible value.
Doesn't say money. Anything of value.
Is there a way to word that? I mean, it still sounds kind of
Yeah, I mean, it's
negative.
it makes no sense to me.
Would you like to know what Irwin's second law is?
Sure.
I have 3 laws, and one of them is the second law, and that is, anytime you encounter a situation that doesn't make sense, the government's at the bottom of it. And that's a complete truth. Doesn't make any sense. This whole story doesn't make any sense. But I think they're furious at Nick, and you're going down because of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
That's what I think, okay?
I know. That's why I'm impressed by the fact that we're getting the same treatment. at the
Yeah,
end of
I
the
don't
day.
know why he can't be protected, or why can Nick just, you know. I see that putting the blame on one another. So what? So he blames Matt for being, you know, cooperative and signing things, but he wasn't happy about it. It was a crazy situation, and it was a bad choice in a bad moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not representative of the kind of
You know, the hard
work he
hardest
does. And so if that comes out in a hearing, whether the government's behind it or not, it's the truth. And I know that when I fill out my accreditations and I fill out my licensure and everything, it always asks if there's ever been a trial or all these other things. And even if I had a good relationship with a hospital or whatnot, it's what I have on paper that says that I've been in trouble, and then they investigate and say, wow, you lied on a record, you know, and it's not a common practice. It was it was just an isolated event
Hang on 1 second. I'm sorry.
without a financial motive.
It's not the finances one.
But it's I understand it's something of value is protecting him. That's what was of value, was protecting him. But you were not to be reasoned with. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what kind of pressure he was under that day, but
Well, what started it was when the investigator came in, Nick went down and lied to the investigator, and then he's like, you have to go talk to her, and
Was that
it's
Don-
almost
was
like
that
his
Don Smith?
panic.
Don Smith.
His
Wait, at the very beginning of it, I'm like,
See, I mean, that. Yeah,
and that's where it set the table. I'm like, well, now what do
yeah
I
of course
do?
it does.
You
It was
know,
like-
Of course it does.
And I get what you're saying,
That's
Lauren.
why they're angry.
I know, because they
And-
knew from the beginning, and
He freaked and he panicked, and you were. It was like it was a contagious panic. You were like
I know, and it was
worried
stupid.
about him,
Right, but it
and
doesn't change what I did, Lauren. I'm guilty of it. I
but that's the truth,
feel
and
better
that's
knowing
what should
that I'm-
come
I'm-
out. And that I mean,
yeah.
this could destroy your life. It
I
really.
don't. That's what I'm here to listen
No,
to.
Lauren, I don't think this will destroy his career.
I think the truth needs to be.
I think the truth will destroy his career.
I
I think we go through a hearing. You'll have a difficult future.
I agree. Lauren,
You just will. You'll have a difficult
But
future.
what,
Lauren, I
what,
have
is,
nothing
what
to
is a
say that-
hearing?
I have
What's
nothing
the
to say.
role of a hearing? What's a hearing?
An opportunity for you to explain why you're innocent, or if you're not innocent, why you should be excused to a greater or lesser degree.
How could that be bad if he has nothing to hide,
Because
if he's completely
I do
truthful
have things
and
that's the whole point, Lauren.
You do.
what you have to hide is that you
Yeah, that I modified a chart. Period. End of discussion.
but that comes out.
The reason why doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But what the hearing is to
Lauren,
hear
it doesn't
why.
make any difference why you rob a bank. If you rob a bank to feed your starving child, if you rob a bank to buy a Corvette, it doesn't make any difference. You still broke the law.
And they're going to punish you. Just you may not go to jail forever.
Right.
You may only go to jail for 2 months.
Right.
Correct. If you're feeding your starving child, that's a mitigation factor. Okay? Now, there's a lot to mitigate here, which is why we've gone from a 3-year suspension to a 60-day suspension. Remember what they started with.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's true.
They wanted 3 years. We've got them down to 60 days.
Well, if this is, he's the head partner and you weren't going to be able to feed your children because you were going to lose your job if you weren't going to cooperate, I don't know how that's not,
That's why we're down to
similar.
2 months and not at 3 years.
That's why we're down so much.
That's the whole point.
That's what
I mean-
we've accomplished so far. We've gone from years down to 60 days.
I think once, if you look at Lauren, I was a complete pussy about it, and I should have just walked out the door and said, you know what, you're crazy. I'm not lying to
I'm not
anybody.
doing this for you.
I'm not doing it, period.
You didn't
And
realize the consequences.
it doesn't matter. I knew it's wrong for right. It's ethics. It's
Right.
I know better than that.
I know.
And I knew better, but when looking at what Antonella did and stealing all that money and then reporting all this shit, and then Nick going down the lie, and then put in that position, what am I? Am I helping Antonella prosecute my partner, or am I helping my partner protect this?
So I
practice?
see your motive. You were angry at Antonella.
Absolutely. That's where it all started. She's the one that threw all this stuff at the medical board, the dental board, etc.
But Antonella did all that because of Voss also.
No, because she got caught stealing $250,000.
Right, because Voss was
Whatever.
not. She should have been.
Right,
on
she
top
got
of
caught. She was mad at
Right.
all the doctors, and she threw as much mud on the wall, and some of it stuck, and some of it didn't. The dental board came in, investigated, and it went away. They didn't care. The things that were alleged were nonsense. This was nonsense too, and like John said, if you just walked away and didn't touch the chart, you probably would have gotten nothing, or maybe a slap on the wrist, if that. And that's where that's where I made a bad decision, and I know I made a bad decision.
Well,
And I
you
regret
thought
the
you had
decision,
more to lose.
But it doesn't change the fact I made that decision at that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I
And
think
it's always gruesome because they never call for an appointment. They never tell you in advance they're coming in. They never give you an opportunity to gather your wits together, or talk to your lawyer, or look at the records, or understand.
and
the
not only that,
story.
but
Who's
Nick,
they?
the medical board, the investigator.
But
they
so
just,
what?
They just come in unannounced. All policemen come in unannounced.
That's
To
okay.
catch you off guard.
So if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to worry about? This was an isolated event.
Do you get it? I'm not sure, Lauren, that you get it. He did something wrong.
Yeah, but it was an isolated
It
event.
doesn't make
So what if
any...
you're constantly under the watch? If you are,
I
know
only
what?
robbed a bank once, Judge.
And there was.
And there was a reason, because my
This
kid
isn't
was
even
starving.
the worst part.
Okay.
This is like a driver's
Okay.
license. Like you
So,
explain.
but that's an isolated event, and it's not typical. This is a
Right.
punishment, which is representative of saying you're not trustworthy because you're going to probably be falsifying all these records, which isn't the case. It was an isolated event.
Right, but that's why we're at 60
I think
days, not
that's
3
why
years.
we've gotten
Or
it down
even-
to 60 days.
That's the whole point. Is
The
that they
minimum
start at
is a
3
year.
years.
Yeah, it started at 3 years. The minimum under the rules is 1 year. We've now got them down to 60 days. Because
So-
of all of this discussion.
It's not even the time
So he was
off.
punished because he was trying to feed his family. So he lied, and now he can't feed his family because, and a hearing isn't supposed to bring this to the table.
It will.
Okay.
Of course it will. That's what we'll be saying at a hearing. That's what you'll be saying at a hearing. That's what you'll be saying at a hearing. And we'll go on for 3 days and say all those things. We'll put all the mitigating factors in that we can possibly conceive. We'll have witnesses who come in and say he's a wonderful guy, he's a great surgeon, he's a wonderful doctor, patients love him. We'll do all of that. Okay? The outcome will be a 1-year suspension.
And the same.
Why would the outcome be 1 year suspension?
Because that's what the rules say.
this would be easier if it was criminal.
Yeah.
The fact this is like a privilege to have a medical license.
Right there. Obtaining or attempting to obtain anything of value by fraudulent misrepresentations in the course of practice. Maximum penalty, permanent revocation. Minimum penalty, indefinite suspension, minimum of 1 year.
So obtaining or attempting to obtain.
That's B8. I read that to you.
Anything of value by fraudulent misrepresentation in the course of practice. I mean,
That's the law. Now we've got a potential plea bargain for less than the minimum.
now how is obtaining or attempting to obtain the same thing as him being given basically somewhat of an ultimatum to sign documents?
Those are two different things. You're confusing an action with a motive.
Yeah.
Okay. The motive is not important, other than you're doing it to obtain something of value. The fact that you might have had a gun to your head, okay, well, that's a mitigating factor.
So then couldn't it be determined that he didn't obtain it, even though it would, because he didn't
attempted to obtain it.
or attempt to obtain it?
You attempted to obtain it.
He didn't actively try to sign these records. He was solicited and pressured and, you know.
Reasoning, Lauren. So I signed it, plain and simple.
Yes, but
And we did get Triple HC approval, so I did get something of value.
Yeah.
In exchange.
you got what approval?
You got the accreditation.
The accreditation was approved.
Accreditation for
For the
work.
facility.
Oh, so I'm thinking this is all about Voss.
It's not.
No, it's not.
It's about the medical record. It's about it indirectly is because it involved her chart and her situation.
But it could have been anybody's chart.
It could have been anybody's, but honestly, it wouldn't have been anybody's because these were obviously the ones that they had issues with, and we knew of this ahead of time.
So it got you accreditation in what facility? In a
All
facility?
of our facilities, our offices.
Your offices.
Oh.
They're ambulatory surgery centers.
So now you have
But
a
how do you
plaque
know
on
he
the
wasn't
wall.
even doing these at home?
It's irrelevant. It's not relevant.
But it's about the facility and
The facility, the name of our institution, our practice, had a stamp of approval called Triple HC accreditation.
mm-hmm.
They came in, did an inspection, they looked at the facilities, they looked at this, they looked at that, they looked at medical records, said that all the charts
It's
were
like
great.
getting AAA
Like
accreditation
But-
for a hotel.
But he has a track record of doing this to John too.
It's not about
Oh,
him.
okay.
It's about my action.
Oh.
And I definitely did it. I can't tell you I didn't sign
Okay.
the charts.
Okay.
And that's what they're holding it to.
Okay.
And I agree with John. I think if I go through a trial or opportunity, whatever nonsense you want to call it,
A hearing.
hearing,
For a hearing.
I think I have a lot more to lose. And for me, 6 days is no problem. I already have stuff lined up in January. Like, you know, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about the insurance carriers that much. I am worried about my malpractice carrier, and I am worried about hospitals. And Lakewood Hospital is going to close in a year, and I'm going to have to get re-credentialed somewhere to be able to operate. And if I can't operate, then that's the situation I'm in. If this is going to lead to loss of privileges or inability to get privileges in a year or two, that's the biggest thing. I mean, Nick's been suspended before. He's got a track record. It's
Didn't
actually
bother him.
It didn't bother him, and not only that, he's had no problems. But he hasn't had to get reaccredited yet through or re-credentialed.
Well, he's a two-time loser. He's got a different story than you, and I'm glad I don't represent him. Okay.
But what's,
Your story is, to me, an easy story to tell.
can I tell some of this stuff about?
When we get there.
Right.
When we get there. Now, what would you rather have? A 2-paragraph statement submitted to the hospital credentialing committee, or a 300 or 400 or 500-page transcript with the prosecution alleging everything?
I agree. 2 or 3 pages of somewhat troubling facts,
two
but
or three paragraphs. It won't be 2 or 3 pages. We're not going into a lot of detail.
well, I got to have some reasonable explanation that will
Right.
overcome the allegations.
But we don't. They won't know what the allegations are, other
It says
than
right
what's
there.
in that citation letter.
Okay.
That you dated some medical records.
But
Okay, it's not like you made it up. It wasn't like you were selling narcotics on the street.
I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
it wasn't that you came into the operating room drunk one day. It's none of this stuff. Okay,
It's
But I don't understand why he's getting in trouble. And I know we're looking at this like it's 2 paragraphs or it's volumes. I mean, we're surrounded by volumes of literature right now. What is to be afraid of if what's in that literature is the truth that exonerates him? And why isn't Nico, or I don't know what your relationship is with Nico and his attorney, but why are they letting this happen? Why aren't they just coming forward and saying, you know, unless this is helping Nico's punishment be much less, which it is,
Oh,
because he's
absolutely.
riding on his
absolutely.
coattails.
Absolutely.
So, in order to be properly protecting Matt, I don't think pointing the finger at other people it should really be a factor. I think, you know, it should be to approach Nico and his attorney and say, you know, he's going down and Nico's getting, you know, a much lighter sentence. There's clearly a motive to drag him into this. Why, if Nico's going down anyway, because when we go to the hearing, he's going to definitely go down really, really, really hard, because I will be completely truthful. And so
nobody's going to believe you.
nobody's going to believe me.
No, they won't.
Okay, well, you know what? It's a hearing.
I
Okay.
understand it. I'm just telling you.
And we
nobody's
have
gonna believe you.
tapes and we have recordings.
Nobody's going to believe you.
Okay.
That's a sad commentary on our culture, but you're his wife.
Okay.
And they're going to assume that you would say whatever it took, just like you did whatever it took to help your partner. They're going to assume that you would say anything to help your husband.
Yeah, but I was angry at my husband that day for doing it.
Doesn't make any difference. Now today is pay up time.
yeah,
And
because
in
now there's a
order
motive
protect-
to keep me
you
in
got
work.
a motive
Yeah.
to keep him in business, keep your lifestyle, keep your family.
Well, why I don't understand why we're not approaching it in the way where we go to Nico and say, tell the truth. Tell the
Okay.
truth that you just like you did to John, and you've been in trouble in the past. You put Matt in a bad situation, pressured him to sign these records, and take the full blame for everything that you did, because it was you. Why drag Matt into this when in the end all he demonstrated was that he was a good friend and he was, you know, a good to him. Had nothing to do with the way he was as a physician, which is how it's coming out.
You're talking mitigation. Okay, you're talking mitigation. It doesn't contradict. It doesn't cancel out the fact the law was violated, right?
Right.
Okay.
Unless Nick signed my name
Which
and said it
is
was actually
not what
blessed.
happened.
Right.
But
It doesn't change.
essentially, he did. I mean,
He didn't.
even though he had you put the pen in your, you know, it's still, you know, you didn't willingly go into the office and say, "Hey, wait, Nick, you shouldn't have been working on your wife. Let me sign these records to get you out of trouble, because you're going to get in trouble for that." That's not how it went down.
It's splitting hairs over the outcome.
Well, obtaining or attempting to obtain, it's different. And there's, you know, I think that it could be proven, or, I mean, the word hearing is to be heard. And to have that, this isn't representative of who you are.
I know.
And to accept, even if it's volumes of an explanation, then it's volumes. It is what it
Excuse
is.
me
Sure.
1 second.
Yeah.
That's not a client. Let me see what this is.
You're not getting it. I agree with you. But having volumes of stuff of fraud and this and that, if they see that, they're like, "Oh, baby, 600 pages of."
So what? So they write a lot. It doesn't.
Lord,
They
but
got to
they're gonna
read it
look at
then.
Yeah, that's gonna say all this stuff.
So you're gonna sign, and it's something that you didn't do, and you're going to take the blame for something you didn't do because
I
it's
did
going to
do
be
one. You-
2 paragraphs
listen,
versus
listen. You're not
350
listening to me.
pages?
Listen.
No, I did hear you, but
You're not
if
listening
the
to me.
350 page explanation, someone's going to go into, if it were me and I had to choose a doctor that I was going to go under the knife, I would, but if there was one mark on the record, I would skip on to the next doctor,
Listen.
first of all. Second of all, if there were volumes of volumes and they find you wrong and they give you a slap on the wrist because you signed, you put ink to the paper, you know, it's I still don't think taking the blame for murder is you know, a compromise. I don't know. I just don't think that
Listen,
that the truth is bad. I really don't.
The truth is not good. If I come to you, your best friend, I just killed someone, can you please hide this gun? And you say,
Sure.
I don't want to hide the gun. We have a whole discussion as to why you don't want to hide the gun.
No,
But then
I
you
wouldn't
go,
say sure.
Listen. And then
Okay.
you go hide the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thing comes out that you hid the gun
Mm-hmm.
and I shot the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well,
The Boston Bombers.
I feel horrible that my best friend, it was all me, I made her do it. You don't think you're still an accomplice? You knew it was wrong to hide the gun.
That's the Boston
It doesn't
Bombers.
matter that you were pressured, that your best friend killed somebody and you were pressured.
It
You're
does
worried.
matter that you were pressured.
Yeah, you might not go to jail for 100 years, but you may only go to jail for a year. You might not lose your license, you may only lose it for 60 days. That's the difference. If it's like, well, I don't know this guy is, I'm going to just hide the weapon, and you have no association, now you're just an accomplice, yeah, then you go to jail for 10 years. That's the difference here. I hid the weapon, and I shouldn't have, and I should have been a freaking man about it, and not let him bully me, and not let him pressure me, and said, fuck you, and walked out the door. I put this on myself, and I knew better. And I shouldn't have let it happen. So don't tell me that I didn't do anything wrong, because I did. My motives were clear. I was trying to help him. I didn't want the woman that stole that money from us to win again. I didn't want my practice to be hit again. And I thought I was going down too. So I had motives, and I had reason to do it, and it went beyond that. Just helping a friend. And I got caught. And I'm willing to pay the price, because that's the right thing to do. Make amends. But if agreeing to this is not going to change the outcome of the fact that I'll never get re-credentialed, I'll never get my hospital privileges, I won't have anywhere to operate, then I might as well fight tooth and nail. But that's not what John's saying. He's saying, in his experience, this is not going to come to something where you're going to lose your livelihood. Otherwise, we're going to fight because you got nothing to lose. If it's a matter of 6 days versus a year, and the outcome will change the course of history where I will not have permanent revocation of my privileges or inability to obtain privileges down the road, then yeah, I'm willing to fight. But if he's saying, and that's what I think John's saying, is with confidence that this is not going to hold you back and continuing through your career path. Yes, this stuff's been on the website for 3 years, Lauren. My practice has gone straight up. I have a very good name recognition. People like me. I'm a good doctor. And I'm a good person. I made a mistake. People don't research, believe it or not, in this day and age, they don't go to the medical board's website to look at what doctors are good and bad.
No, they don't.
They don't. Because if they did, I'd have 0 patients. I'd have 0 doctors calling
And
me.
even if they
telling me.
do, Matt, they don't know what a 22B8 is.
I know.
And they couldn't care less what a 22B8
But the credentialing places do. My boards do. They know what this shit means.
Correct.
And that's the part
But
I have to.
The less damaging stuff they get their hands on, the better it's going to be for us. We're going to have essentially a blank slate.
I get it. And you can say all these glorious things in that blank slate, but at the end of the day, do they look at, is it simply, with medical insurance coding, you have a diagnosis and you have a CPT code.
And I made a mistake.
And no, let's say, and the insurance company doesn't say, well, you ask them to look at it and to basically approve the procedure that's medically necessary. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't recommend it if it was but they just look at the patient's list of codes that they are eligible for and what they're ineligible for. Mm-hmm. It's simply a matter of yay or nay. There's no explanation, there's no understanding without maybe a lot of fight.
Right.
Is this, when it comes to credentialing agencies, hospital boards, is this a similar thing when they look at 72B
No,
and say,
it's not.
oh, 72B, you got the best reasons in the world, this is fraud, you're done,
No.
out?
Not in my experience. First of all, even with carriers, you have a right to appeal, okay? Which then gives you the opportunity at that time to say all of these things with nobody to contradict you. Do you understand? There wouldn't be any contradictory evidence.
Right.
There wouldn't be a transcript. There wouldn't be Nick testifying.
It's just this letter.
This letter and a consent agreement is the only public document there would be.
But that consent
But
agreement.
Nick shouldn't be able to testify if he has a motive that is.
Do you think Nick's going to come in and testify against you at a medical staff hearing?
No, of course not. No.
Because I could rip him to shreds.
So, but there wouldn't be contradictory. He wouldn't contradict him. Is it what you're saying?
This is, when I talk about the board, we're talking
Oh.
about when I go to reapply for privileges at Avon Hospital or whatever hospital,
Whatever they
Hooja.
call it.
Okay.
Right.
I want to get privileged at a hospital, and they say, well, Dr. Goldschmidt, you have this
You've got a
allegation
disciplinary
and this
action with the
disciplinary
medical
action.
board. And we're not
I'm
gonna give you
sorry.
privileges.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, fine, we want to appeal that decision. Then we go through a medical staff hearing, of which I've done thousands, and we do the mitigation there with no one to contradict you.
That's where you're saying there's no medical board that's going to come on the opposing side.
The medical board
I
is
don't.
not going to come.
I don't care about this letter that's on the website already for 3 years. I don't care about the consent agreement. What I do care about is the ramifications in 3 years. That's what I'm after. I don't care about 6 days. I'll go by like that. I have January half booked. I mean, that's not a problem. The problem is when Lakewood Hospital gets bulldozed and I don't have privileges, I have to apply somewhere.
Right.
And when I apply, if I don't get privileges, I can't operate. And if I can't operate, I'm fucked.
So what do you want to overcome in that scenario? Do you want to have to overcome the notice of opportunity and a consent agreement that says yes? Or do you want to have to overcome 3 or 4, 500 pages of hearing transcript and a 1-year suspension by the medical board? What do you want to overcome?
I think the crux of the issue is this, is that if you murder someone and they give you a plea bargain, say, yeah, I did murder someone,
Mm-hmm.
we'll only put you in jail for 10 years, versus we go through a huge trial, which is what Lauren is kind of proposing, and explain it all. At the end of the day, things will come out good and bad. But if you're just right off the bat flat out admitting guilt of some horrific things, the confidence in overcoming that is, I think, at question.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that any government agency, whether it's the medical board or the county prosecutor or anybody else, one of their motives for plea bargaining is to save them money.
Right.
Okay? I mean, this is going to cost them $100,000 to go for a hearing with their lawyers and their witnesses and the time of the hearing and a court reporter and everything. It's expensive, okay? And one way to avoid that expense, from their point of view, is to have a consent agreement. And most cases are settled, as true with criminal cases, most cases are settled with plea bargains, okay? Because most of the time, the government doesn't start a prosecution unless they have some evidence to justify it. And they have some evidence to justify it. So they're willing to accept a plea bargain and save themselves a lot of time and trouble and money. But if that plea bargain is rejected and then we cause them to spend a lot of time and money, the reality is the punishment's harsher. Just is. They say you made us spend $50,000 or $100,000, and you're going to pay it back now.
Wow, that's
life.
That's how it goes, man.
That's
Absolutely.
reality. The best deal that anybody's ever offered is always the day before the trial begins. Have you ever been through a med mal case? I mean, that's the way they are. They're settled on the courthouse steps because that's.
But that's a very pessimistic point of view.
No, it's a very realistic point of view. It's not pessimistic or optimistic.
That's what he does for a living. He sees it every day.
But
he knows how this works. He knows
but
the
if
game.
with the analogy we just gave, then you get heard, and then they realize it's self-defense that you murdered someone. Then you're exonerated.
Correct.
Depends
If you kill
situation.
someone because of self-defense in most states in this country, that's an exoneration.
Otherwise,
we're not dealing with self-defense here.
well, in an analogous kind of way,
Not in
yeah.
the least. Not in the least.
No, it's not.
Well,
Lord.
you
Why
were
is it self-defense?
defending your job and your livelihood, but
Yeah,
you were
he wasn't
afraid.
defending his life.
No,
No.
It's different.
but he was a victim of a bully, and he was defending, what,
And he should
not.
have known better.
Well, you know what? A lot of victims of bullies don't choose to be victims of bullies.
But he's a grown man and he's a doctor, he's a surgeon, and he's held to a higher standard.
But
than
just
those-
because you're an adult does not mean that you're not subject to bullying and subject to that. It's just not. It's not as easily.
I don't think the grown-ups on the medical board are going to accept that excuse.
Well, bullying is starting to. There is more awareness coming to it, as it not just in the
grade school,
play
that's true,
right.
but
Not, it's the
There's
medical excellence
workplace
is-
bullying that exists.
That's not relevant
It's not
to the.
It's not
child.
going to work.
no.
It's not, Lauren. I mean, listen to yourself. I mean,
Why don't you?
I am.
Why don't you come down
No
to
one
the
else
medical
is.
board with me this coming Wednesday and watch what they do? Watch what they do. Starting 9:30 on the 4th.
But they're not at a trial. The judges.
Wait till you see what the medical board does. You ever been to a medical board meeting?
But
You
they're
should
not.
have everybody.
They're not the judges.
They are the judges.
they're judge,
Of
jury,
course
and
they are.
executioner.
This is administrative law. They are judge, jury, executioner. They set the rules, they write the rules, they enforce the rules, they prosecute the rules.
And if they
deliver the
realize they
punishment.
make a bad decision
They
that
never
it
make a bad
ruins
decision.
someone, they don't.
Not in their minds.
Not in their minds.
Not in
But
their
then there's a judge above them.
There's
The governor.
You could
there's
sue
governor.
the board.
No, you cannot sue the board. You cannot sue the board. You can't sue the government.
Well, so the board, it doesn't sound like due process to me.
It's not.
It's not.
This is not a criminal law. It would be easier if I killed somebody. The criminal lawyers are. It's
Well,
a
first
different
of
game.
all, if you kill somebody, the government would hire the lawyer and pay the lawyer for you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is nice. Wouldn't be much of a lawyer, but it would be free.
No, but I'm just saying, like, due process, this is all biased. I mean, they have already a huge bias, and they know I'm guilty. I'm walking in the door, and now it's just the degree of guilt and the degree of punishment. There's not,
Yeah, because
you're innocent, because I'm not, Lauren. I mean,
you
listen, I'm telling you.
understand the hearing officer who sits and acts like the judge is a salaried employee of the medical board.
Right.
Now, how's that for fair?
How come? So how did it get this far, though? Like, how did it? I mean, was it because we didn't want to point the finger at one another that they believe that?
No, because they wanted a 3-year suspension.
But when
I mean, what kind of a deal is that? We have fought
But you knew
and
that-
fought and
but-
fought and fought and continued and screwed them around and argued with them, and we got them down to 60 fucking days as opposed to 3 years,
Yeah.
which would be a killer.
Oh, yeah, I would be done. I mean, even a year would be hard to come back from.
Now, all of my clients survive a year. It's agonizing, but they survive a year.
I don't
When you
think
get to
that's
2 years, it's difficult because after 2 years out of practice, you have to retake your Part 3 of the National Board exam. Did you know that? When was the last time you practiced OBGYN? That one's a tough one. If you're out for more than 2 years, we are required to take Part 3 of the National Boards again. The equivalent of it. It's called the SPECS exam. And
were you an
since-
OB? Is that-
Pardon me?
Were you an OBGYN?
No.
Oh.
So, but you know, I mean, just as an example, how much OB do you remember?
0.
Me too, 0. No, maybe more than you because I was a GP and I did OB kind of, I did GYN kind of stuff. But in any event,
another, if we can
3
change
years is really a death
Yeah.
knell.
to change the topic, the dental board now.
Yes,
am I going to be suspended from practicing dentistry for the 60 days as well?
That's a possibility.
Interesting.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
Okay?
When would that take effect? Would that take effect concurrently? Or
No, that
Oh,
will
good.
take effect
Excellent.
after this, and when, if ever, is unknown. I have a pretty good rapport with the dental board, okay?
So there's a chance that they
There-
might not have any action against me?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
What do you mean you have
Have
a
you
good
heard
rapport?
anything from the dental board yet?
No.
No.
But I would think that there's all that, when I report this to them, they're like, what the fuck?
What do you mean you have a good rapport?
We have a good relationship with the attorneys and the board
Yeah,
members
yeah.
that represent the state dental board.
It's important for a defense attorney to have the respect of the opposition, okay?
Absolutely.
If you don't if they don't believe me when I tell them X, I'm useless. And the only reason they will believe me is that with experience and time, they've learned, okay, this is a lawyer that we can believe. He's going to tell us the truth. He's going to advocate for his client, but we can take to the bank what he is saying. Every lawyer has a list of what we call scum dogs, and those are opposing lawyers that we can't trust. And the worst thing a lawyer can do is to lose the trust of the opposition. So you got to have, you got to have a trustworthy relationship.
Do you trust Nico's attorney?
Yeah, I trust Kyle.
No, that's the
How do
board.
you know
No,
him?
Doug Graff.
Oh yeah, well I've known Kyle and Doug for what 25 years. 20 for Kyle, 25 or 30 for Doug. Yeah, of course I trust him. Wouldn't work with him otherwise.
So
Do you work? Oh, you work together?
All the time. There's only like 4 or 5 lawyers in this state that do this kind of work. It's a small group of lawyers that do this kind of work. There's me, there's Doug, there's Jim McGovern, there's Beth Collis, there's Eric Plinky. That's about it. Good board lawyers that know what they're doing.
So there's a chance that the dental board may not sanction me,
They may not do anything.
may not do anything.
They may say, listen, you've been sanctioned.
It's you paid the penalty.
Yeah, you've been sanctioned. Your primary board is the medical board, and you've been sanctioned by them. So what's the point of doing anything further? You don't have any new facts. You don't have any new reasons. You don't have any new evidence. You've got nothing more than what the medical board had. So go away.
I mean,
He's paid his price.
It's yeah. I mean, I'm unusual because I'm double boarded.
Understand that.
I'm just wondering if they're going to be like, well,
It's possible.
Yeah.
Okay. If for whatever reason they develop some pricky attitude, the more shit that we put out into the public record, the greater possibility of subsequent consequences.
oh yeah, if the dental board would take action. I just
Okay? If they read all this kind of stuff.
because in the other thing going for me in the sense that like AAAHC is there's not one oral maxillofacial surgeon in the state of Ohio
Mhm.
that has that accreditation.
Mhm.
It does not matter whatsoever. The reason why it's relevant to the medical board is because if you do office anesthesia
Mm-hmm.
under your medical license, you need to be in an accredited facility.
Right.
That's where Nick's motivation came in for being
Right.
accredited.
Right.
The dental board would discipline you because you have to each time you fill out your licensure, you have to admit to this
No,
or you're lying.
Well, they'll know about it, but that doesn't mean that they're going to institute a prosecution.
I've been checking yes for 3 years now, and on my dental board, my medical board. That yeah, I'm a subject of investigation and whatever with the medical board, and I have a little paragraph that I wrote
A
to
little spiel.
say yes, I'm under investigation. The allegations are currently pending, and we'll keep you posted. And nothing happens because nothing's happened. But now that this comes down,
I think it would
shit
affect
may
you negatively.
It may.
You won't be able to practice dentistry.
No, I don't agree with that at all.
Really?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. He's not going to have his dental license revoked because of this. Nope.
Well, the medical board's
Why?
not gonna-
Why? How do you?
Well, the medical board's not going to revoke his license because of this. Why would the dental board revoke his license because of this?
They would suspend him. If 60
might-
days. That's not. I don't
That's even
understand.
better for me. I'd rather them.
Wait, whether
Look, I can't guarantee what the dental board's going to do. I can't guarantee what Lakewood Hospital's going to do.
Right.
I can't guarantee what the DEA's going to do.
Right.
All I can tell you is that you have a path. You have a fork in the road, okay? And you can either go this way or that way. I'm telling you, this way is safer. It's not good, but it's safer than this way, which is bad. That's your choice.
No, I understand.
They're both
sir.
bad. This is a 1. This is a 10.
There's some wiggle room in that path. And that wiggle room might be enough to allow me to practice and continue going forward.
Absolutely.
The other way is definitely not going to make it easy, and it may be.
Make it more difficult.
And the other thing is, I could still practice dentistry for the next 60 days.
Sure. I wouldn't if I were you.
I shouldn't? Okay.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't. Okay? I wouldn't do anything for the next 60 days. And let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because that is, in essence, a slap in the face at the medical board.
Okay.
They could easily perceive that as a runaround of the suspension.
Okay.
Because how would they know for sure that whatever you were doing inside that mouth was really dentistry as opposed to oral maxillary?
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay?
Fair enough.
Not something you want to do.
Okay. I mean, and maybe in lieu of any action on the double board, like I was trying to get you to, or at least propose to Kyle, was to voluntarily
The
take
dental
this.
board might be more willing to do that, okay? The dental board is a little bit more negotiable than the medical board. The medical board doesn't do these kind of voluntary abstentions.
Yeah.
They don't do these fines instead of suspensions.
Yeah.
The dental board and the pharmacy board and the nursing board, the other boards, they're much more likely to do something like that. Much more.
Well, that would be huge, because at the
Well,
at the end of the day, if all fell apart, I could still do oral surgery and
Right.
and have just give up my medical license and be done.
Well, you're not going to give up your medical license.
No, I'm just saying, like if
Yeah.
it all went to shit and I couldn't get privileges, short of building my own surgery center, which I could do.
Which you could do.
I mean, that's what Nick's going to do. He's just going to keep operating without privileges and just operate in the office.
I don't think it's going to come to that, Matt. I really don't. I think if we go down this path, we have very good chances of keeping hospital privileges, of keeping credentialing in all aspects, okay, keeping your double boards happy.
Okay.
Okay. We go down this path,
Not so much.
we're going to have a lot of stuff to overcome.
Okay. Okay.
I wish it were different, but you're paying me to give you advice.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And it's based not on anything but realism. It's not pessimistic, it's not optimistic, it's not happy, it's not sad. It's just, this is life. It's like when you tell a patient, the biopsy came back positive for adenocarcinoma. Let me tell you what we have to do. And they don't like hearing that news either.
No, you're right.
We've all done that.
But it's not a death sentence.
Not a death sentence. If we
It's
do
not
things
gonna-
right, it's not a death sentence.
I mean, your confidence is upwards of 95% of not losing privileging and all that stuff. I know there's always a chance that they look at them back.
There's always a chance that you could get involved in a situation where somebody doesn't like you, or somebody's got a competitive reason they don't want you around, or all sorts of collateral stuff.
Yeah.
But that stuff we can deal with. What I can't deal with well, I mean, I can deal with it, but not well, is 300 or 400 pages of ranting and raving, and witnesses testifying, and exhibits being gone over for hours.
Yeah.
And questions being shoved up your nose. Why did you do this? And what did you do here? And why did you lie on that page? And why did you lie on this page? And didn't you know that was a lie? So this is the 5th time you've lied on this patient's medical record alone.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Oh, I see what you mean loud and clear. I do.
It just adds up a pile of shit that is so big.
How about, I know I keep asking this question, but I want to revisit, because I don't understand. having Nico tell the truth?
Well, first of all, Nico doesn't want to testify. Because when he is put on the witness stand, he will be cross-examined.
He'll be crucified.
And it will be vivisection. He will be crucified.
Yeah.
Okay? He's a way easier victim than you are. Easier to kill. He's got a lot of bad stuff. He's got previous discipline. And
So using with him with his credentials alleviates his disciplinary.
As long as we're not doing this, it's better for everybody.
Well, it's not better for him.
Well,
It's not better for him.
It is
Yeah,
better.
it is, Lauren.
It's not better for
No,
Matt, because
it
if
is.
Nico got on the stand and
He's
if
not
he
going to come
said,
forward like that.
He's
Come on.
not going to come in there and take
He's the most
rap.
self-serving
why,
person ever.
Why would he?
Because everything will be revealed in a hearing.
And
Hey.
he'll take a rap and get us permanent revocation.
Okay.
He's not going to lie.
So-
He's not going to come in there.
So
and
what does he
take a
have to, if it's the same consequences either way
It's
at
not,
a
though.
hearing, hear me out. If at the end of a hearing he gets his license taken away and he gets this disciplinary, or he comes forward, maybe they would even have more mercy on him because he said, you know what, I was wrong. I should not have. There's obviously incentive for me to be riding on Matt's good reputation, and but truth be told, because he doesn't have to say this, but it would be revealed in a hearing. I take full responsibility for this whole thing.
Are you sure he's going to do that?
I'm not. I'm
He's
saying
not going to do
I'm
that.
not.
Today he's going to do that?
He's not gonna do
No,
that.
I'm
Come on.
saying
You know
is
what kind of
this.
person he is.
I-
If anything, he's probably going to blame me so he can save his own skin. I mean, you have to realize what you're dealing with.
But I'm saying this is an approach. We have this path, we have this path, and then you have a good relationship with his attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
does
guess
his
the question is,
attorney?
can we put pressure on his attorney to say, look,
Yes.
Goldschmidt's not accepting this. He's not taking the suspension. Nick's got to ante
It'll
up something
save
more.
350
I
pages.
don't know
It'll
if that would-
save 2 paragraphs. It's the truth.
Is there
That's
anything
not
to do that?
why is that not even something, sometimes it doesn't even hurt to ask. They can say no.
So we can't posture?
I'd say ask him. Let's ask.
I mean, Doug must be doing jumping jacks thinking he's doing backflips thinking he's so happy to get Nick out of this with 2 months.
I know.
Yeah.
So this is going to be devastating news for him, but you know what?
Nick's not going to come in. He's the most self-serving. That's why I'm leaving Lauren. I just
I know.
left too late and I got
I know.
some of the shrapnel from...
But he's going to get a 350 page, he's going to get the discipline anyhow because I'm not letting you go down for this. Okay.
Mr. Graff, how are you, sir? All right, I'm sitting here with Dr. Goldschmidt and his wife, and we are discussing the pros and cons of a consent agreement. And Matt's wife is asked the question, if Matt didn't go forward with a consent agreement and instead went forward with a hearing, would Dr. Diamantis be willing to come in to the hearing and take the blame, essentially, for this entire matter and say, listen, I pressured Dr. Goldschmidt into doing it, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I understand that, but that's the question that's been asked.
There, in fact, was a consent agreement that my client had. And I would say that the likelihood of that happening is 0.
Okay, say that again for us. I've got you on speakerphone, if you don't mind.
Okay. If we didn't have, if we don't have both consent agreements, I think we have none.
I understand that. So in other words, if Dr. Goldschmidt says no to the consent agreement, then Dr. Diamantis is going to say no to the consent agreement.
Well, no, I think the board will say no to the consent agreement.
I was going to add that too, for the obvious reason they want to wrap this whole case up. Doesn't save them any time or trouble to only have to do half of the case. Okay. So I understand that. That's true.
Now, that being said, the one thing I do know that if two respondents are sitting in the room pointing fingers at each other or not, they both lose.
Correct. I understand that and agree with that also. That's pouring gasoline on the fire.
We would be going more from 60 days to a year out, regardless.
Correct. I agree.
So that I really think, if you, even if one was to get up and say, I did it and the other just participated, it still was full knowledge participating in an act he probably shouldn't have done.
Right.
So maybe he only gets a year out and the other gets 2.
Right.
I mean, I don't see the upside to anyone in that strategy.
Right.
There's the upside to the truth.
Excuse me, what's that got to do with anything?
Mrs. Goldschmidt is not a lawyer, and
But
we've been discussing these
things. The simple reality is, Mrs. Goldschmidt, we do not work in courts of justice. We work in courts of law. This is regulation. This isn't truth. It isn't true at all. There was no fraud. There was no financial motive. There was no... I mean, this is ridiculous. This is punishment. This is what would look good on the front page of the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
Well, we're not going to get on the front page of the Cleveland Plain Dealer unless we have a hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
And a hearing will get you the notoriety you don't want and time out that you would prefer not to have.
Thank you, Doug.
So though, I mean, I guess what my question is, would, you know, we're talking about the different options, signing a consent, going to a hearing, and I was curious if, you know, because truth be told, even though this isn't about truth, I guess, Matt was protecting and a good friend and did what he thought was the right thing for Nico. So Nico is going down either way. Yes, he's got a much lighter sentence if he can ride on Matt's credentials and coattails because he's got a clean record and he's a good person. But if Nico's going to go down in a hearing, why save everyone the 350 pages and money? And if he can, now it's his turn to be a mensch and stand up and say, look, I pressured him. It wasn't the right thing to do. And this was the one, and Nico, actually, maybe they would have some more respect for him for being honest and being a good person like that, too. It's just an option. It's just something we've never discussed. The truth, the simple truth. Is that an option that, and it would preserve the, I don't know. Is that an option?
Well, I think that everyone sees things slightly differently. And I don't know that truth be told that the board would see anything more than a conspiracy because they are conspiracy theorists. Regardless of how it began, both will be punished. And most likely, they will be punished significantly more than what we have in front of us.
By trying to explain.
Yes. There is a penalty for going to trial. And there is a risk that is significantly greater than participating in the outcome by settlement.
But there's only a penalty if proven wrong.
Not at all. There is a huge penalty because all they're going to say is, well, it doesn't matter. You guys did this together. We don't care why.
Well, I don't know. We were giving analogies of self-defense, and this is Nico was bullying Matt. He was clearly Matt didn't voluntarily walk in and start signing these records because he was pressured, and I think the right thing for Nico to do would to be simply to admit that. If I were a judge, I would say that's a very brave thing for you to admit. And, you're a certain kind of person to do that, given, you're admitting to wrong and facing consequences. Either way, you're going to face consequences. But I would be more lenient, for someone who is being, honest about their own wrongdoing. Rather than, go ahead.
It is as if two kids steal a candy bar and one said the other made me do it.
Mm-hmm.
Did they both steal the candy bar?
Yes, but the other one made him do it.
No, we punish both. Welcome to real life.
But this is a hearing, and and you're being heard, and you're hearing an explanation, just like, yeah.
But it's now a conspiracy to violate the law. You just admitted to a greater penalty. You just admitted to another violation. It's no longer, we did it and whoops, it was too bad. It's now, we conspire to violate the law, which is a greater penalty and a bigger punishment.
I realize that conspiracy and all that is a bad sounding word, but the intent, it was not a malicious attempt, and I think that the consequences here are really harsh.
Actually, from the board's perspective, these are amazingly light. And as John will tell you, these are, in fact, considered by the board to be little more than a slap on the wrist.
Well, I hardly see it as a slap on the wrist, and,
Compared to 3 years.
I mean, this is...
We started this with a 3-year penalty for both of them, irrespective. And we now have this down to 60 days without the time, risk, and cost of a hearing, which I find to be an amazing change in what we've been able to do.
Well, great for your client, because he has a past record and he has all these other...
It's my client.
Who, Nico?
Him. The 60 days applies to him also.
Yeah, but I see him as virtually...
He's just as guilty.
No, he's not.
You're not listening.
He is not just as guilty.
In the eyes of the law, he is equally guilty.
The minute you admit that, he had the option not to. It's a conspiracy. That means he did something illegal with knowledge. It goes from an innocent mistake that is going to be dealt with much less harshly to a perpetrated act of defiance, fraud, and theft.
Yeah, well, these are really big, scary words, and people, under any other circumstances,
Wait till we get to a hearing and you hear the opening argument.
Okay, and I just want to finish, I hear you. And under any other circumstances, none of these crimes, big words, scary words, would have been committed if he were not pressured, if the purpose of a hearing is to have it all come out. All the truth. I was there that day, and I will tell the truth.
No, it is to put in the record why we should punish you more.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. And so it's not an option. It's not an option for Nico to tell the truth, because yeah, he'll get in a lot of trouble after a hearing for sure, and potentially my husband will too. Or he could save himself all the aggravation, the 350 pages and whatnot, and exonerate my husband as he should, and explain the truth, maybe even get less of a punishment than having to go to trial, because he was truthful and did a very difficult thing by telling the truth.
Well, I significantly disagree with the way you order the facts in this case. And what you're saying is to turn what the board is now willing to look at as a substantially lesser issue and innocent mistake to a major conspiracy with knowledge of both your husbands, because now he had the option to say no and he didn't have the integrity to say no. That means we cannot trust him to ever practice again, and maybe permanent revocation is the appropriate outcome.
Does a victim of bullying have integrity?
I'm sorry, he's a licensed physician.
Uh-huh. So what? He's an adult, too. He's not a kid. So
And
what?
Therefore, we're going to hold him to the standard of being a licensed physician and an adult.
Okay. All right. All right. So you're not even going to ask your client?
What should I ask my client?
What this third avenue that I propose, that instead of going to a hearing, that
Well, wait. The only way we can do it is to go to a hearing, and that means your husband's going to go to.
well,
the
he
hearing.
can write a letter, or he can come forward and he could say, "Look, enough is
It
enough."
makes no difference. The deal's the deal. This is it.
No, I'm saying that I'm proposing this option. I would like you to talk to Nico.
I'm sorry, you're not the decision maker.
What?
You are not the decision maker.
What do you
These
mean?
are the options we have in front of us.
Uh-huh.
You either can take column A or column B. There is no, let's try something else.
You could not, like, we don't have mouths and ears or the ability to write an email or a letter and go to the board and say, here's a new finding, here's something, we've had some time to look at this and look at our options, and this is what we've decided to do. We've decided to be honest.
First, I don't believe that it's being honest. Second of all, no.
Okay.
Third, that time has passed. Your husband's been in front of the board and he's already said what he said.
This is current.
He testified under oath in front of the board in their disciplinary hearing, and he's now going to go back and say that he lied and that he did it with knowledge and that he participated in an act that he lied about to the board.
Right, and he was pressured. And it's like,
How many years would you like him not to practice?
what does that have to do with anything? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're talking about self-defense or, a malicious act of intent. This will come forward and the truth will come out in a hearing, and definitely they're not going to have an equal punishment. So I'm saying that, the hearing is the option that we have, or if Nico wants to maybe, alleviate what that consequences will be by being an upstanding guy and saying this is difficult for me, but I'm going to tell the truth instead of dragging Matt down with me, because Matt didn't do anything but try to be a good friend, and he was a big pussy victim of his bullying. So, it's Nico's turn now to do the right thing, or the hearing happens. I'm not afraid of 350 pages. Hell, I'm not afraid of 700,000 pages. If it means the truth coming out, or someone going down for an isolated innocent act, or not innocent, he was wrong. It's like somebody telling me, look, my kid is starving, go rob that candy store for my kid, and I do it. Yeah, I totally stole. It was theft. I was wrong. But I didn't go in there with these intentions to harm. And this is going to affect him for the rest of his life and our livelihood. And, my husband made a bad decision, but I was there that day. There was so much tension in the air. There was so much. It was a contagious panic that Nick and Voss had.
Now, you were part of the conspiracy too?
Yes, I was there, and I was like, this isn't right.
Oh, we don't need this evidence at all.
I don't care. It's the truth. It is the truth. And I can see when my...
terminate Matt's career. It's going to end, if you do what you're suggesting, he will lose both of
My
his
husband and
licenses.
I don't always agree. We, maybe, you know, it's not a...
The minimum is a year, Matt.
No.
What, you're handing him
You're
this
not
to
gonna
sign
get less
it?
than that.
No, he's showing me
I'm
that.
showing you the law.
Oh.
The minimum is a year. You're not going to get less than a year if we go to a hearing. I think you'll get way worse, but I think you'll get way worse.
Well-
I totally agree.
What's your job?
I'm a dentist.
You're going to lose your license.
Okay. Probably if I let him work in my space and people are going to
Yeah,
see
you're going to lose
that...
your license because they're going to conspire. It's a conspiracy now.
Mm-hmm.
The three of you worked together to commit this fraud.
Well, I said, don't let it. I said no. I saw him getting pressured, and I said this should not happen. I was
Did you
angry.
Stop it? Did you stop it?
Did I take the pen out of his hand?
Yes.
No, I didn't
No, you
take the
didn't.
pen out of
Okay.
his hand. He is his own free
We
person.
we don't want 500 pages of testimony about you violating your dental license.
I didn't do. This has nothing. I was against it the whole time. I have recordings.
Listen to what you're saying, Lauren. You're not listening to what you're saying.
No, it doesn't.
You were there.
I
You
was
did.
there, and I
You
was
were there.
against.
You
I
participated.
have watched my husband get bullied
You
before.
did. Okay. Doug, do you have anything else to add to this conversation?
Certainly not.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I'll get back to you later. Okay? Thanks, Doug.
You're missing the whole picture.
I am?
I understand your frustration.
Okay, now this is why we don't want a hearing.
Yeah.
We just added a conspiracy count with a third party.
It's not conspiracy.
Yeah, you have an
One of them.
obligation.
No, I'm a wife with a differing opinion and a professional
You're
opinion
a
that I.
licensed dentist.
This is not
Yeah.
about anything.
You're going to lose your license.
You can't.
You know what?
No.
I was against it. How was I? How am I going to lose him? Because I didn't divorce him?
Stop it. You didn't stop it. Did you call up the dental board and report to them?
I
that
will.
Your husband just violated the law?
You know, it
Oh,
wasn't a
God,
dental.
man.
It wasn't a dental matter. It was a medical matter, and it wasn't anything that, you know. I'll tell you, I definitely felt very uneasy about it, and I regret.
Listen,
But
you got to take a deep breath and think it and listen.
What
to
would you
they're
like me to
saying.
do?
I don't think there's much choice.
I need to do something soon because I'm going to run out of time here. I
don't.
sent you a proposed letter to go to Kyle.
I
I
saw
don't know
it.
whether or not the secretary and supervising member will accept that. It seems very straightforward to me.
Okay.
I would like to send that to Kyle and see if we can get a revision to the consent agreement. Because the way they proposed it right now, by the wording itself, you're admitting to the violation of not cooperating.
Right.
Even though they've removed the factual allegation, they've kept the paragraph in there, the fourth paragraph, about the failure to cooperate.
Right.
you
that's
mean
your
you mean
fault.
this
That's
minutia
your fault.
about walking out in a
That's his
meeting?
fault.
But it
That
didn't
what
even
didn't
happen.
didn't
We
even
don't
happen.
need to, I don't
That's
want
what
to
we're
have
But
to
that's
explain
giving
that
John
with
leverage to negotiate the rest
you.
of
Yeah,
it.
I don't want to have to go through explaining something that I shouldn't have to explain in the future because it's
Right.
not long. It's moot.
Right. It shouldn't even be in
But
there.
I do want to get this down to Kyle and at least see, will they make this last change to the consent agreement? They may say no at this point.
But that has to go because it's not true.
No, but
I think it has
Listen,
to go.
stop.
but
You don't
Irwin's
understand what you're talking
second
about,
law.
okay.
What's that?
Irwin's second law.
Yeah.
Even though you and I say it has to go because it doesn't make any sense, it's the government we're dealing with.
I mean, I guess
So
it
they
gives us
may
more.
not do it.
Does that give you more fodder when it comes down to it? Like this, we can play the tape of the meeting. This didn't happen,
Do we
so the
wanna
allegations
go
are.
down through
No, I'm
a
saying
year?
after the fact.
No, it's not worth fighting over to the death. It isn't.
But it's common sense that it should go.
It is common sense, and that's something.
And
that
Kyle
is-
agreed to that it was removed, that part was dropped.
He's removed that charge, and that is in writing. That's done.
So,
But the specific corollary reference to the failure to cooperate violation, the statute being, has not been removed.
okay, well that
Okay, and it's almost trivial, but it gives me a reason to propose
Right.
cleaning up the language.
Right,
okay?
exactly. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. It gives you more fodder to
Right.
fire back and say, look,
It's a B34.
yeah, I'm not.
B34
That shouldn't be
right.
on there. It needs to be removed from the
Yeah,
complaint
and let's
altogether.
clean the whole thing up.
And
Just
here's,
remove it. Just take out that last sentence.
can you, are you putting forth all the wording or
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
okay?
Did you see what I?
I read it, but I didn't
Yeah,
know
it's
what
just
47312B and all that stuff was.
Okay. Right now, the last sentence of the first numbered paragraph. Subsequently, you admitted that you had created documents and/or directed the creation of documents, including progress notes and/or consent forms, months or years after the actual date upon which services had been rendered. And I said, listen, let's just take out that last sentence and substitute you admit to violating B8 and B24. Okay? That's all.
Okay.
Because there's only 2 counts that we're admitting to. We're not admitting to B34, which is failure to cooperate.
Right.
That's based upon allegedly walking out of the conference, which you didn't do. So therefore, B34 allegation is moot.
So
Right.
what is he admitting to? What are the 2 things he is admitting to?
The ones I read you at the beginning.
About the
That
chart attempting to.
no, I want you to explain to me. What are the 2 things he's admitting to?
Let me read them again. B8, the obtaining of or attempting to obtain money or anything of value by fraudulent misrepresentations in the course of practice.
Okay.
Okay? And the other one is number 5, making a false, fraudulent, deceptive, or misleading statement in the solicitation of or advertising for patients in relation to the practice of medicine and surgery, osteopathic medicine and surgery, podiatric medicine and surgery, because the board licenses DPMs and DOs, or a limited branch of medicine, massotherapy they license also, or in securing or attempting to secure any certificate to practice issued by the board. Okay? So in essence what it is making a false, fraudulent, deceptive, or misleading statement in relation to the practice of medicine and surgery. That's
Okay.
B5, and the other one is B8.
Okay.
Those are the 2 things that we're admitting to. Yeah, we made a misleading statement in the medical record. That's in relation to the practice of medicine. We made a misleading statement. It wasn't clear that we didn't post-date the entry.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Okay? And it was not true. We were trying to get accredited, and we didn't think, my God, I should make a little notation up by the entry, late entry.
Right.
I didn't do that. How many times have you seen that in hospital medical records?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. Do you think they're going to jerk your accreditation for the boards or your hospital privileges because of that? No.
So I can explain all that.
Correct, we will.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what we
cool
will
with
explain, and there'll be nobody to contradict us,
Then
and
that's the best
nobody
part of it.
talking about a conspiracy to defraud
Yeah.
the medical
Oh,
board.
I hear you loud and clear.
But now he's admitting to a lie.
Because he did it.
He's admitting to doing the surgery.
Lauren,
He
I'm-
violated those 2 provisions of the law.
you're not hearing this. The excuses are
I'm sorry.
irrelevant.
I'm just seeing the big picture. That's all.
The big picture is
You're
I'm going to
you're
keep
seeing
my
the
license.
Very narrow picture. I'm looking at the long, big picture. I
My
want to keep
career.
this man's career, and I'm telling
trying to
you,
lose
the
my
way to
career.
do
But
it
by
is what I'm
him
telling you.
admitting to doing surgery on
He keeps his career. He's not admitting to doing surgery on anybody.
well, that's
No.
Lauren,
He's not admitting
you're
to
not
doing
understanding the gravity of I don't want to go anywhere and down to that medical board. I was there once, and that was probably a nice experience.
did they know that Nico did the surgery on his wife?
It doesn't fucking matter.
But that's what this was about.
No.
Let's
it's
say
not
he
about
admits it.
that.
This is about changing medical records. Whatever the medical records are, for whatever reasons they are, they were altered, Lauren.
They were
I can't
false.
say they weren't. I'm not going to go down there and lie that I didn't alter medical records.
Who did the surgery?
It doesn't matter.
What does the board
Doesn't
think?
matter.
Doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. How many?
I
times do I have to
changed
tell
the
you?
record.
The records are false.
I can't change what I did.
The records are false. That's the statute. You make a false record, you violated.
And then it was an
Ohio law.
accident. It was misleading. I agree with that.
Doesn't make any difference.
I made a mistake. But if I go down there,
what are the records supposed to say according to the board? Who
They're
did the
supposed to be
surgery?
true.
but this opens up a whole can of worms, Lauren.
But I have a question. Who did the surgery?
This isn't. You know what? That entry is
no
not
one
even
is
questioned.
answering me.
That
well, I
entry.
want to know. I want to know.
Nicholas did the surgery on his wife, and my name is on it. And I signed that note, but that's not actually the notes that they even care about. Because that one's not even.
They
printed.
care about the Botox.
They care about entries. There's the chart entry where, in the way they found it, was that the birth date corresponded to a different day than the chart entry. Which I can tell you, there is a way to explain that one too. But
just remember this, Matt.
Yeah.
There will be a lot more in the hearing
Oh yeah.
than what you think they're alleging right now.
Oh,
They'll go through the
every
whole
chart, yeah.
litany of
Oh, yeah.
every entry.
there's way
Good.
more in
Including
there.
doing
No,
surgery
Lauren, it's
on
not good.
patients, doing surgery on patients that with other guys' name,
Yeah.
dates are wrong, names are wrong, who did what is wrong,
Oh, yeah.
who signed what is
There's
wrong.
many more counts of fraud.
You'll hear 50 different allegations.
Because maybe they only picked up on 4 or 5 charts that I signed inadvertently or misleading or whatever terms I could use now. But if they find 5 others, now it's,
They're
well,
going to use them.
we only had 5, now we found you have 15 or 50 or 100 or, whatever.
And if they go through the charts they have,
And I'm not going to lie to them there. I'm going to say, Dr. Yama's put
But
me up
that's
to. They're
why
going
you're
to give a fuck.
leaving, and that's the consequence of working with someone who has
And
this
again,
kind of history.
The reasons, the process in your brain, there's one that is all trying to explain it away. But I can't explain away the fact that I did it. I can explain why I did it, but it's not going to result in a...
which is why we're down to 60 days.
And I was just going to say, that's why we're at 60 days, Lauren.
You're
So
being
I
given-
appreciate...
You're being given a gift, and I don't know if you realize it.
I do realize it because going down there and testifying and having to... Even if I could get Nick to say, hey, I made him do it, I put the gun to his head, they're still going to look at me like, you're a
still
fool.
going to get a year.
You're a fool. You shouldn't have done it. I don't care if God himself walked down and said, you know what, Dr. Goldschmidt had a good reason to do it. I am God, and I am granting him this thing. They're still going to punch me for not having enough balls to walk out and say no.
You have no balls right now.
Right
now, you have no
because
balls.
my attorney is telling me, and I totally agree with it, that I have no way to contradict what actually I did. And I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that my ethical behavior needs to be here.
Right.
And it's not.
Physician.
I am a physician, and I didn't do the right thing before.
Right.
And I'm taking this gift. I'm admitting the things I did, which I can, in a nice way, explain away. But if I go down there and I tell the truth, I'd probably lose my license, or at least maybe 1 to 3 years.
Okay, so you can trust attorneys, but not your wife?
Are you licensed to practice law, ma'am?
I am licensed to be his wife and look out for his best interests.
You didn't answer my question.
I answered.
Are you licensed to practice law is the question, ma'am.
I am currently
You're on the witness
licensed
stand.
to be his wife
No,
and
ma'am.
to look out for his best interest.
Okay. You know what's going to happen if you behave like that in a hearing? When you're asked a question by a lawyer and you're under oath, subject to the penalties of perjury, and I've had clients prosecuted for perjury in board hearings.
I'm not lying. I'm his wife.
You're going to answer my question. Are you licensed to practice law?
Is that relevant?
You know, you would get a contempt of court citation, and you would get 48 hours in jail.
But I'm asking you.
No,
is it
ma'am.
relevant?
You're-
If that
we're
I'm if I
role-playing
am or
right
if
now.
I'm not.
We're role playing right now. We're role playing. Are you licensed to practice law?
How is that relevant in this conversation while I'm sitting on
Sheriff?
this couch?
Escort her from the courtroom. 48 hours.
I'm sitting on a couch, not in a courtroom.
Okay.
He's role playing.
You're not listening.
No,
And
but
you're
you're not
not helping
listening,
us.
and you're not protecting him.
Oh my God.
He's protecting me, Lauren. You're not hearing what
We
he's...
went from 3 years to 60 days, and you're accusing me of not protecting him?
Because the truth is not coming out. He should not be getting in
We
any trouble.
don't want
He should be
any more
disciplined
truth
for
to
being.
The truth is worse than this.
Good.
All right,
truth is worse.
you falsified records. You were under. I mean, this is. I don't know what the difference is. You make the government out to be an enemy.
It is,
and
my dear. You don't know that?
Oh my God. Okay,
Yeah.
you can don't trust your wife.
It has nothing to do with
trust
trusting
the
It's not a matter
okay.
of trust. It's
This is
that
not
you're
trust.
No,
qualified.
these are
You're not
choices.
qualified.
I think you're
You've
making
heard two
another bad
lawyers in
choice.
the last hour
I'm going with
tell
my
you
attorney's
the same
decision.
thing.
This is what he does for a living, Lauren. You're a dentist.
Yeah,
I get it.
I was
I
your
love you.
wife
Hey,
for
listen.
a living
Listen.
too.
I'm
I
sure
love
he
you
loves
to death.
but you're not a lawyer.
And
It
You're a
doesn't
loyal
matter.
Wife.
you
It
never been
does
to the
matter.
board here. How do you know what?
You're a loyal wife, and that's wonderful. I have a very loyal wife too, and she would do the same thing you're doing, and she's not a lawyer either. Okay, but
You're defending me till I die, and I am so grateful
a
for that.
hearing with you would be a disaster because you would lose your dental license.
I would lose my dental
You
license.
would. Because
How-
the evidence
how?
will come out that you participated in this cover-up.
I feel like this is all a cover up. This is a big conspiracy. He never did the surgery. He's signing records for doing a surgery.
Right.
How is that not a conspiracy that you,
Right, you just said
and
it,
this
Lauren.
other
You said it.
attorney? No, that's the conspiracy.
There's a
the
greater
truth.
conspiracy. You're right. There's two conspiracies here.
Yeah.
Right. The bigger conspiracy is way worse than the little conspiracy that the board has on us. Do you understand that?
So my alternative would have been that day to divorce you because I didn't believe in what you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always argue with you. It's always a big source of
Right.
contention that I think it was the wrong thing to do.
And it was.
But I know that sometimes you can be bullied. I've seen it.
Listen,
I can
listen,
too.
This is not about.
But-
this is not about.
But that's what it is.
Listen,
and your
no,
and your
it's not.
representation should
Listen.
be protecting you,
He
not
is protecting me.
I don't
He's
know.
giving me advice. He's not saying you have to do this or else. He's saying, in my experience,
It's your-
in my
it's your
professional
decision to
opinion,
make.
Mm-hmm.
hey, it's like when they say you have a big growth in your mouth, and you're the dentist. Say, I think that's cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, I don't believe you. I've had this thing for a while.
And then you get
know what?
another opinion.
Yeah, we just got another one there. And
Yeah, we
there's-
got
listen,
an opinion from a team
Listen,
of
listen,
a conspiracy.
this is my second attorney.
Sorry, I don't mean to,
had Mark-
like
I had Mark
insult you,
Riddell.
and
You're
you're,
not a lawyer, so
but
you don't know.
I had another attorney.
I'm not a lawyer.
You're not
I
a
am
lawyer.
not.
And I wish-
I am his
Listen,
wife, and
listen.
I have his best interest, and I have
No,
no
you
other
don't.
motive.
You're not
I have
listening.
no other motive.
You're not listening.
I don't want to
I'm sure
continue
that
to
you
represent him continually when I have to
I'm
keep
sure
writing letters
that
for
you
accreditation.
Have no other motive, ma'am. But your advice is catastrophically wrong.
Okay.
The motive is fine.
hmm
The advice is catastrophe.
The advice to go to a hearing.
To go to a
Yeah,
hearing.
we're not going to go hearing.
What's
not
it?
gonna
What is a hearing for? What's the purpose of a hearing?
Have we not been discussing this for an hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
So why do they have a hearing? What is the purpose?
Lauren, the things that
Sometimes the client is completely innocent,
Mm-hmm.
and we go to a hearing and we prove that. I've done that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the first question that I asked your husband gave me the truthful answer that he violated the law.
He did. But
that's
still.
all you need to know.
But you know
All we're
what?
doing
Why
But
is
he
it
violated you're a lawyer, and your fancy wording is very accurate. But you walk into a convenience store and you have self-defense and you murdered someone. It's the same thing.
Your analogy is inappropriate.
Oh.
We're not talking murder and
Should we talk about the candy analogy or starving or
It
you know
doesn't
what?
matter, Lauren. You know what?
Okay.
Let's
Let's go.
let's
Fine.
go talk about it because
All right.
John's got an important thing.
This isn't important.
No, it is, but we're not going anywhere. We're going in circles.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
need to get back to Kyle one way or the other.
When I'm ready.
Yeah.
Because
I'm ready to tell
there's
you.
going to be another.
Yeah, that's fine. We're going to go forward with the consent agreement, and we're going to try and modify the
Maybe. No. Well,
Listen,
and then
we're
we're
going to
gonna.
try and modify the
Then I'm
language.
going to serve papers
Okay, you serve papers.
because I am
This
not
is not
consent.
about-
I did not
Listen.
consent to you signing those documents.
Right.
And
I did
he's
it.
right. Your attorney is right. I should have divorced you by doing that, or called the board
Right.
and thrown you under
Right.
the bus. But I knew that you were being bullied, and so and
It doesn't matter, Lauren.
but you know what?
Doesn't matter.
I'm not going to be married to someone who's
Okay.
who's a pussy.
Right? Then
Your
you do what you have to do.
husband is a fine man. He is not a pussy. He's
Yeah.
a courageous man.
Yeah.
He's making a courageous
No, the
decision.
brave thing to do is to tell the truth.
Lauren,
Because
there's
that
a
isn't
time and a
pretty.
place for that truth to come out, and with the
Mm-hmm.
board, that truth would probably cost me my career.
It would.
Do you understand that? And not only that, it might.
We have enough evidence
Listen,
to prove the
stop talking for a
truth
second.
that it won't
Listen,
cost your
listen.
career.
Listen.
Okay.
There's two conspiracies here. One is what we did,
Mm-hmm.
and one is what the board has accused us of.
Mm-hmm.
The one the board has accused us of is much, much less.
Mm-hmm.
If we go down there and they go through these records with a fine-tooth comb,
Mhm.
and you testify that you were there,
Mhm.
we have a lot more to lose. And the truth will come out that Nick put me up to it. Yeah, that'll all be fine and great. But the greater truths of how much more I potentially did and how you were there are far more damaging to us professionally and personally.
I don't care.
Why do you not care about?
Because I don't believe that. I don't believe any of that is true and accurate.
Well,
And with the
It is.
recordings and everything I have, it's
right, we're gonna
not
prove,
going to be good.
We're
No,
gonna prove
we're gonna
that
prove
Nick
the
put me up to it.
truth.
We're
Right.
gonna prove that, but that doesn't prove that I didn't do it. And I wish I
Yeah.
could say I didn't do it, and I wish I said I could have walked out on him,
Yeah.
but I didn't.
Bullies and can make people do things that they
Listen.
wouldn't otherwise do. You didn't electively walk in there. It was not anything with any kind of malicious intent.
Listen.
The purpose of a hearing and no,
It doesn't change the fact that I changed the charts. It doesn't change it.
that's right. It
I'm
doesn't.
taking my lumps,
Okay.
and I'm moving on. The truth will set me free, and this will set me free,
Alright.
and I will take my lumps, and I'll take 60 days off, and with John's confidence, I believe that I will not lose my privileges, and I will not lose my board certification.
Okay.
I believe that.
Okay.
If he's telling me, he would be honest and say, look, I've been through this before. He's been doing this for a long time. That's all he does for a living is protect doctors from the board in many states, not just this state. And I'm going what he says. I
Okay.
am. And
All
if you think otherwise, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because I know that going down there and having a hearing
Huh?
would be against our better interests.
Okay. All right.
I think
I'm done.
You've got the right idea.
Yeah.
You've got the perspective on it.
Mm-hmm. He's right in your hands.
Well, he's my attorney.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to go.
All right,
We'll
Mike.
talk a little more. I'll give you a call in a little bit.
Give me a call.
Yeah.
All right, please. I won't do anything until I hear from you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Yep. Is this the way out?
Yes, it is. Come on through.
Okay.
Out there. I'll be here, Matt. Give me
Okay.
a call. Okay?
Fair enough. Thank you.